Have you ever tried to look outside the world to be inspired, to be motivated, and before long you realize that you're actually becoming more of a consumer than you are a creator? That's exactly where I found myself early on in my business career. Being a police officer, it was very easy for me to get into learning and overconsumption mode. Sometimes I didn't even realize that I was consuming instead of creating. The problem is when you're not creating and putting out new things in the world, you don't stand out in the crowd. You don't have your unique voice that connects people to you. And let me tell you, that is what was keeping me stuck for such a long time before I learned what we're going to talk about here today. So let's dive into the difference between creating and consuming, find out what some of the pitfalls are and some of the red flags so we can know if we're actually over-consuming, and what to do next to become more of a creator and put your unique spin and voice into the world. Teresa, you're up.
So let's talk about the difference between consuming and creating. So we wanted to look up the definition and give it to you here. The definition of consume is to use fuel, energy, time, or a product, especially in large amounts. And to create is to bring something into existence. So for example, consuming could be scrolling on social media, watching videos, reading, learning, all of which are good and necessary at certain times. But when that's all you're doing, you stop short of taking the next step, which is creating. Creating is putting things out into the world, bringing things into existence. And it doesn't necessarily mean building it from scratch, but it does mean doing it in your own way.
So why does this even matter? Because in our current world, attention is the new currency. So everybody's vying for our attention. It gets very easy to dive into consuming, thinking that we're making progress, when in reality, all we're doing is learning and consuming. One of the things that I used to do, and I see happen all the time, is we get so much into consumption mode that we start saying and doing the things that other people are doing, and it just doesn't get us to stand out in the crowd. We actually lose our personal voice, which is the thing that would connect people to us the most. Now, like Teresa said, we're not also talking about starting things from scratch. All of the information and ideas, even the ones that we share here on the channel, are not original ideas, but they are put through our voice and through our own message. So when you find somebody that does give you inspiration, instead of continuing to consume, ask yourself, how does this apply to me? How does my story actually fit into this? And what is my unique way of communicating this so I can stand out in a crowded room? Now, you may have already heard about some of the dangers from overconsuming, but I want Teresa to come on because some of these things will actually be symptoms to show you that you might be in overconsumption mode even though you don't think you are.
Okay, so one of the dangers is decision paralysis, because you just have so much information coming in that you can't make a decision. Another one is losing your unique voice in the crowd, just like Mark said before. You won't sound like yourself because you're trying to copy other people. And another one is stagnation and a lack of forward momentum. This is when you can't make decisions, you don't feel authentic, and you just feel stuck. So let's talk more about a balanced approach. This is just a good combination of consuming and creating. So in this case, you're consuming for inspiration and learning. It's just the right amount of learning so that you can move into the next phase of creation. And this is where you can start setting dedicated time to create. Another way you can balance this approach is actually having tools and strategies to monitor and manage your consumption. So for example, having a digital detox. This is when you unplug, get rid of your devices for a little bit, and give yourself some space. Scheduled learning times. Just like I said earlier, you find a time to learn and to create. And another tool is something called My Newsfeed. This is where if you go on social media, especially Facebook, and it doesn't show you a feed. So if you have to do some dedicated work on Facebook, you won't be distracted by a newsfeed.
Now, I want to give you some action steps on how to get from consumer to creator. But I also want to let you know that there's not a perfect synergy between how much you consume and how much you can create. It's really a personal thing for everybody. So really being able to check in and ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did I actually consume this week versus how much did I actually create? And making that adjustment moving forward into the next week. So a couple strategies are, assess your current habits. Have you noticed that maybe your habits are more tending to lead towards consuming than creating? If so, find some space in there. Dedicate some time to creating and eliminate all of the outside noise. Number 2 is set very specific goals for your content creation. One of the things that I do is on Sunday morning is when I write all of my scripts, all of my posts, and schedule all of my videos out so I know exactly when I'm going to be doing it next week. This helps me stay in creation mode, keep my voice, and really lean into making an impact by putting something into existence. Number 3 is dedicate blocks of no distraction creation time. which means in my personal situation, it's before the kids get up, before the puppy starts whining, and when I have some pre-workout in my system, because I'm much more creative when I have all of those things working for me. Now, there is one more powerful strategy that I need to teach you, and that is how do you discover and find your true confidence within so you can feel compelled to become that creator instead of that consumer. That's why we recorded this next video. Tap on the screen to learn how to discover your true confidence. Because when you can lean into your true worth and what you have to offer the world, you'll notice it's so much easier to create because you know that people need to hear your message. Thank you for being here, leader. Take these strategies and run with it and keep leading from the front.